Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Resident Rulebreakers. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Khalil.
And today's podcast is not only our first podcast of 2021.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone. But it is an interview with the co-writers of the season 4 premiere, Dr. Daniela Lamas and Eric Liu. Daniela and Eric took some time to talk to us about how writing the season 4 premiere was not only a therapeutic, because Daniela is a doctor who works in the ICU at Brigham Women's in Boston. She's seen a lot of COVID-19 patients come through, and a lot of them not make it. So it's a way to honor the frontline workers and the patients who never survived. And there's a lot of good questions in there. We asked them about COVID fatigue. We asked them about the conic wedding, which is the other major part of this episode. We're very excited to get to talk to Daniela and Eric. It's a good interview. It's a short interview because we were limited on time, but we are lucky enough to be able to talk to them courtesy of Fox. This is the first time where we had help getting an interview in place. And we want to thank Fox Publicity, Nyla, Alison, and Tiffany for helping us out and helping us set up this interview.
This is like a first for us. Okay, for those who don't know, back in November, out of the blue, because we never contacted Fox, we did not know how to contact them. We don't know how they know us. We still don't know how they know us. Out of the blue, they emailed us and was like, "Hi, we're grateful for your publicity on the show. You must have heard that we're premiering on January 12th. We have casts available for interviews. Would you like to work with us on getting them interviewed?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And stuff, but yeah, and so this is our first time we still don't know how they know about us, but you know,
we're just humbled. We recorded this interview on December 22nd, 2020. So before we give you the interview, I want to mention that we have a Patreon account. We have 3 wonderful patrons who actually knew about this way before any of y'all did, because we have sneak peeks that we post on our Patreon account for our patrons, and we hide them. So if you look at our Patreon and see nothing, there's a reason why, because we hide our stuff for the people who are helping fund the podcast. So if you want this information, it's literally as little as $1 a month to get it. Here's Eric and Daniela.
For our listeners, can you please introduce yourselves? Your names, backgrounds, writing history, how you got to write for The Resident, etc.
Sure, I'll go ahead. My name's Eric Liu. I'm a writer on The Resident. I've been on this show for 3 seasons now. It's been a blast. And I had the honor of co-writing the season 4 premiere with Daniela.
And my name's Daniela Lamas, and I'm a pulmonary and critical care doctor here in Boston, and also a writer on The Resident. And I've been on The Resident now for 2 full seasons and a little bit of a first season. I also was thrilled to have the opportunity to work on the premiere with Eric.
The season premiere, we know that part of it is the COVID-19 pandemic and flashbacks. And the question I have for you, Daniela, is because you work in the ICU, you've seen a lot of COVID patients come in and out. Was writing that plotline therapeutic?
I think that's a great question. I think there was definitely a way, more broadly, even before COVID, I found the ability to sort of translate some of hospital experiences into fiction to be quite a sort of wonderful and kind of cathartic experience, being able to give people a sort of second life where they do not die, but in fact live and do well. And so in the setting of COVID, I think, as we were beginning our room in June and kind of thinking about what kind of details we were going to incorporate, things that made it into the script, things that didn't, the idea of sort of replaying like these moments and thinking, all right, what was this like? How can we, make this dialogue as realistic as possible? What parts of these moments are we going to incorporate? For me, was a powerful experience, and I think the ability to write and to think about things in terms of fiction has been, for me, the sort of greatest antidote to burnout that I can imagine. And so there's definitely a way in which it's therapeutic. Yes.
You have anything to add, Eric?
I mean, it was just incredible hearing Daniela's experience as we were writing the premiere. I think that was invaluable to us being able to craft stories that were authentic to what was actually happening in the real world. And we also got a chance to talk to lots of different people from different parts of the country as well. They all had similar experiences, but also different experiences. And I think our goal was to really humanize the experiences of all the doctors and nurses and frontline workers, but also the patients too, who were going through just this unprecedented event. And for us, it was just really trying to tell an authentic story and be able to really walk in the shoes of those who've really experienced it.
How much did your real life experience working in the hospital make you want to write? Like, how much did that influence your desire to write the premiere?
I think having had COVID experiences and really continuing to have them at the time that we were beginning to talk about the premiere, definitely influence projecting into a future that was uncertain, that we didn't know sort of what the world would be like and what the appetite would be of the public to continue to see stories that had anything to do with coronavirus. But I think, working in the hospital made me feel, though it was something that was shared by even people who weren't in the hospital, that there was sort of a duty to tell those stories and to make sure that our fictional characters experience those stories, because for doctors, in the world more broadly, it changes how we perceive things moving forward, and our fictional characters would share that as well.
Was it a conscious decision to move the storyline forward in a post-COVID world to avoid the COVID fatigue that so many of the shows are experiencing right now?
Yeah, it was a big discussion that took a lot of different twists and turns in terms of how we would handle COVID. I mean, it's just such a, it's nothing that we've ever seen before, and it keeps changing. And we started writing the premiere back in end of May, I believe, not knowing where we would be when we premiere January 2021. So a lot of it was kind of guessing as well, but also
wishful thinking.
Yeah, wishful thinking and wanting to bookend, as you guys probably have already seen, the episode with this wedding, the wedding of the year of this decade between Conrad and Nick, which I'm sure you guys are excited about.
Well, they released the sneak peek of the vows. Yeah. Everyone was going crazy when I posted it.
Good to hear.
Yeah, and so I think that we wanted to bookend something that was like a light at the end of the tunnel, despite just this really incredibly hard year that all of us have gone through. I think that having a wedding to be able to showcase, hey, where there's hope, we'll be able to get through this together, and wanting to really use the premiere as a way to honor and to appreciate all the healthcare workers who have really dealt with COVID, and also the patients and everyone and their families, but also moving forward in the season to continue to play other medical stories aside from COVID. I think that the decision was, hey, let's really focus our premiere on COVID, and then as we move forward, we'll set kind of our fictional medical setting in a world where people have received the vaccine or something like that.
What's like the timeline? How much time ahead are we talking about when you're thinking, like, back in May the after COVID future was going to be.
In truth, we didn't know. Like when we were talking in June, we really didn't know. And we don't, but when our episode premieres, we're really going to be in something similar to the time, it's not like we're saying, all right, this is now medicine in 2025. No, we're where we are, but where we are is a time that the vaccine has sort of been rolled out to everyone. And there's some murkiness in that, clearly, but I think we're sort of pretty close to where we are in terms of chronological time, but in a bit of a faster sort of vaccine rollout, because we didn't know how it was going to be. So we're not playing a big vaccine rollout. In our world, we had COVID, and the threads from COVID continue to follow through. Like even if we're not continuing to see patients coming in with active COVID, it changes people's decisions in their lives. We're going to continue to see the repercussions of that in other patients, and the themes that came out in COVID, themes about equity, many issues in our healthcare system that we've tackled before, but really were sort of laid bare, more profoundly. These are issues that we're going to continue to tackle as Chastain becomes a public hospital. We're going to see the themes that we've all talked about. We're just going to show that they don't only apply in COVID.
Of course, there's so many repercussions. People who do survive it often have long-term health risks because of it.
Yeah, you get clots and breathing problems, from what I understand, too, right?
Yeah, there's a whole host of both physical and psychological sequelae, and we're going to see patients who are dealing with some of that.
Season 3 was cut off early due to coronavirus because, they had to finish filming early. There were a lot of storylines that, weren't finished all the way as what was planned for season 3. How much of the storylines in season 3 that were, ended prematurely are being touched upon in the season premiere?
So I think, as you guys probably know, we had to stop production early. I believe it was episode 21. We had probably 23 that we were planning on. And so basically we had to jerry-rig the finale. And actually Daniela was one of the co-writers on that one, where we had a lot of different threads, including Candida auris, which was the fungus that was spreading throughout the hospital, and the Conrad, offer from Kim and all of that. And I would say that as we were beginning season 4, a lot of the episodes, the remaining episodes from season 3, we were trying to figure out how we can slot them into the earlier portions of season 4, while also really starting our season with the COVID premiere, because that's really what we wanted to be able to showcase coming, out of the gates. But also as we really move forward, how can we continue some of those threads from season 3, but also really launch a fresh new storyline to season 4. I think that's where you're getting Kim sort of being fired, Kit becoming the new CEO, Chastain becoming a public hospital. So I think that the first couple episodes will totally be wrapping up some of season 3 stuff, but it won't feel that way. I think it'll still feel pretty fresh. I think season 4 will feel like its own new season. It'll stand on its own 2 feet, and it'll feel like we're taking the show in a whole new exciting direction, where we'll have Chastain kind of in this new territory, our characters having to rally to really save the hospital and move it forward in this new direction, and also bring on new and interesting challenges that we haven't seen before on the show.
Can I ask, and this is just from my lack of knowledge on the subject, what are the big differences between a public hospital and a private hospital, I guess? For layman's terms, what are the big differences between the two?
So I think the main difference is that the public hospital is basically it's owned by the city, by the government, and there is a sort of a mandate where you're required to see and treat, and basically you can't reject patients. You can't turn them away for reasons related to, for instance, insurance, their ability to pay, et cetera, et cetera. And so, as you guys know, with Chastain currently as it is, it's being owned and controlled by Red Rock, a private equity conglomerate organization. And we've played a lot of the stories related to how they're trying to maximize profits in maybe shady or, you know, alternative ways. And as Chastain is now becoming a public hospital, I think that represents newer challenges where maybe the goal isn't really necessarily to maximize profits, but really to focus on the mission of treating patients and making healthcare accessible to everyone, no matter who you are, no matter what background you come from. And the challenges that it'll present is perhaps, you know, certain salaries for positions may not be quite as high, or there might be certain supplies or certain services that may not be able to be afforded. So we'll be able to play all of that in interesting ways, and the consequences on both our characters and the patients.
Yeah. Because we've seen in the past, Chastain, our doctors like have to fight off unnecessary care for our patients, right? Like people continuously want to do things to our patients to make money from them. But now the dynamic is totally flipped. Like now we're in a somewhat more resource poor setting, and our doctors have to figure out how do we get our patients the care that they need. And so that's going to be an interesting sort of different place for them to be in, which brings a whole host of other controversies and you know, really moments for heroism.
Yeah, when I was reading through that, I was like, what's the difference? That's why I was wondering. Okay, so can we talk about the wedding, since we've already touched upon it? And it's like the big thing for the season 4 premiere. When we talked to Miss Amy back in May, she had told us that they were thinking about doing the wedding probably in episode 4, because season premiere was going to be like episode 21, 22 was going to be the second episode, 23, etc. How did this decision come about that the wedding has to be the season premiere? And like, what was the thought process on that?
I mean, a wedding like that is a premiere-worthy event. We were looking for something that is worthy of a premiere, essentially. And what could be more worthy than a wedding between Conrad and Nick and waiting for? Why put it in episode 4? And, you know, why not start off with a bang? But really, I think that a lot of the discussion was around, hey, we want to do a premiere around COVID. That's something that we had decided on relatively early on. But how were we going to be able to do this, especially when we were premiering, you know, half a year later in January, exactly. And so we made the decision, hey, let's try to do this with flashbacks, but what would we be flashing from? And it made sense that we should bookend the episode with the wedding, because that's the main event, and that's something that we could really bring all our characters together, where it's both a reflection upon what had happened, but also a celebration of a new beginning as well. And just as a little teaser as well, there's something that happens where we, at the earlier on when we were talking about the episode, we want to sort of set up this idea that there would be someone who would be missing from the wedding. And we kind of lay that question from the beginning and answer that at the very end, setting up this interesting mystery that you'll have to watch the entire episode to find out.
Oh, you're such a tease.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do.
There's bittersweet there as well.
So, any other season 4 like hints, spoilers, or anything that like new storylines that we might be touching on in season 4? You know, maybe medical mysteries. We love your medical mysteries.
You're definitely going to get some medical mysteries for sure, but it's a mystery what they are, and it's a mystery how they turn out. So I don't know how I can tease that one more effectively. You know, the jeopardy to our characters doesn't end with COVID. We have And then with a public hospital, we have sort of new disease processes that we haven't featured before, and the ability to bring real innovation to patients who haven't necessarily seen that before. We're gonna have a patient with sickle cell disease who's gonna have a large plot line, and there's
sickle cell anemia.
Yeah, the patient is based off of a patient that Daniela took care of, and it's as we were talking about it, we wanted to sort of create a Lily like
character
plot line, from season 1 as well.
Yeah, she's stuck with a lot of people. Lily is one character that really sticks.
Yeah, and I think adding on to everything that was said as well, when thinking about season 4, it's a shorter season given everything that's been happening. We only have 14 episodes. Normally we have 23. And in our other seasons, we had this major thriller story arc. We had the medical devices, we had Red Rock, Kane, Lane Hunter, and talking about Quo Vadis, exactly. And talking about season 4, I think a lot of the discussion revolved around, hey, I think let's make this more of a soapy season. So as Daniela mentioned, a lot of the jeopardy does not end for our characters. We'll see a lot more happening to our characters, both kind of tragedy and challenges, but also a lot of really happy moments, and there will be a lot of really happy surprises. And I think things happening for our characters that will be really fun to watch.
Yeah, Amy has shown us that we have a couple of romance moving along, with Minotaur. And Feldmore's gonna get married as well as Conic this season, so it's kind of exciting for all the romance fans as well. Okay, so we're gonna talk about coronavirus, the real life thing. Have you guys taken the vaccine, or are you guys gonna take the vaccine? Are you?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to get the first shot of the vaccine a couple days ago, and just to anybody who's watching and listening, it was an entirely benign experience. Nothing negative happened as a consequence, and I was thrilled, and to be able to be on the way to immunity, and encourage there's obviously it's so hard that for most of the country this is going to be months and months to come, but I hope that it gives people that hope to hold on and to do what they need to do and to endure, knowing that this does have a light at the end of the tunnel, a light that we show, a little earlier in our premiere, but a light that is there.
Yeah. And Eric, if you don't mind me asking, as a fellow Asian person, I'm extremely lucky that I live in Hawaii. So I haven't really faced a lot of discrimination when it comes to being Asian, because Hawaii is mostly Asian populated. My question to you is, have you faced any?
Because of COVID, or just in my life?
No, directed mostly to COVID, whether it's because trying to blame you for coronavirus or anything like that.
Personally, I have not. I also live in an area that has a good amount of Asians where I am. I'm in Irvine, California. I'm also home a lot. I have 2 small kids, so we are here and we go to the park, and that's pretty much it. So I have not necessarily faced any discrimination because of COVID, but a lot of my friends have. A lot of my friends who've worked in hospitals or who are working in hospitals have, and also just reading a lot of the different articles and stories about what's happened. And that's also something that we'll also touch a little bit on in the COVID premiere too. Just a lot of the basic discrimination, but also the health disparities and the consequences of this virus on a lot of different communities, including Asian Americans, but also the Black and Brown communities and other minorities who have really been hit hard by this virus in more ways than one. So that was something earlier on when Daniela and I were talking that we really wanted to be able to showcase through both our characters and our doctors and nurses, but also our patients and what they're experiencing too.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for this interview. We hope that the season progresses along as many fans hope it will. There's a lot of excitement and a lot of anticipation for January 12th.
So thank you so much.
Yes,
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for watching, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so thank you, Daniela and Eric, for taking the time to talk to us. Thank you for your insight on season 4. Can't wait. It will be season 4 starts next week on Tuesday, and hopefully the interview and the insight that they brought kind of like makes everybody more excited to see what.
Yes. One of the things that the question about the storyline therapeutic was actually a fan question that we got when we mentioned the interview on our social media.
Yeah.
And so we saw it and was like, that's perfect because she's been living this.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of insight from Eric, a lot of insight from Daniela, whether about, because, like you mentioned, originally Amy mentioned the wedding would be further back into the season, and now it's in the premiere, which this wedding is premiere material. I'm just saying.
Premiere worthy.
Yeah.
Eric kept calling it the wedding of the decade.
Next week, you're going to get to tune into a more in-depth news discussion between us on all the news that's released over this winter hiatus to prepare us for the premiere. First things off, we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, our Patreon account. If you want to know what's up before we announce it on our social media, you can go to our Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/The Resident Podcast. And you can join. It's as little as $1 a month. The lowest tier is BTS. So you get things like what happened with the interview that you just listened to. If you
were our Patreon all this time, you would have had access to our questions that we were going to ask Daniela and Eric.
Ways to listen to us. We have our Podbean. You can go there. You can go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course, you're probably watching this on YouTube. So obviously our YouTube channel is a way to go. Tune in next Tuesday, January 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's the first official airing on Fox for the season 4 premiere of The Resident, which is a COVID flashback and a Conant wedding in a semi-post-COVID world. So, with all that being said, tune in next week to hear us talk all the news. The following week is the season 4 premiere, and then 402 will be the week behind it, and that's our January lineup. So, we'll see you next week. I'm Kayla.
I'm Camille. Bye.